Hey folks, I'm Chris and I'm your Commander Mechanic. I tune up dozens of decks for viewers each week, but the issue I see come up time and time again is how much land is enough? Am I running enough land? So let's look at building a better Commander deck, starting with the fact that you need to be running more land. You may see CEDH decks running less than 30 lands, and you may see casual decks running over 40. But how do we land on this number? There isn't a single hard and fast magical answer to this question. It varies from deck to deck. It starts with your mana curve. Your mana curve is a visual graphing of the mana values of each non-land card in your deck. Any deck builder, like my sponsor Moxfield, provides you with this absolutely critical information. This shows us the average mana value in our deck, and with that information, we can ascertain three things. The first is where your commander is in relation to your average mana value of your deck. Does your commander cost 7 mana? How critical are they to your deck's game plan? We need to find out if our commander is essential to what the deck is doing, and how we're going to need to cast them, along with how many times we need to cast them. A 3 mana value commander is also a 5 and 7 mana value commander if we need to recast them. A deck can't do the thing if it relies on its commander, and we can't cast them. Determining our necessary mana high point is crucial as well. How much mana do our game enders or key synergy pieces cost? Are we keeping mana open to protect essential assets? Have we built a deck around Mycosynth Lattice? Is our game plan to have key pieces out and protected before our big bombs? If so, we need to factor in how we're getting to that minimum amount of mana needed. The last thing we want is to draw all of our key pieces and not be able to cast them. And third and most important is determining our critical turn. Your critical turn is where you jump from casting a single spell per turn to casting 2 or even 3 spells per turn, while having the resources to do it. This is typically double your average mana value. For instance, if your average mana value is 3, your critical turn will be when you reach 6 mana. This lets you cast either a single big impactful spell each turn or 2 spells of your average mana value. It's the turn you're able to sequence together single turn synergies, wipe a board and recover, or play a threat and protect it. Your critical turn may be the turn you're able to end the game as well if that's your deck's goal. But the key point we need to focus on is having enough consistent mana generation to reach those goals. Our decks are randomized, so nothing is ever certain. Variance is what leads us to being flooded or screwed. But what we can do is give ourselves a better statistical chance of drawing enough lands. If we build to averages, we can craft a more consistent experience for ourselves. This is very easy to do in Commander because we're working with a 99 or 98 card deck. So we can look at one card being a 1% chance. You have a 1% chance of drawing any specific card in your deck. We are getting mathy, so let's bring out that chalkboard. Many players feel the bare minimum number of lands they're comfortable running in a deck is 30. Seriously, I get tons of tune-up requests with 30 lands saying, my deck won't do the thing. But let's look at why 30 lands is not enough. 30 lands in our deck means 1 in 3 cards we draw are, on average, lands. A disclaimer here, I am going to talk mathematical averages. Shuffling your deck does randomize things, and the odds of drawing a card at any time are limitless. But we want to play to averages here by at least giving ourselves the best possible chance for our deck to do the thing. With 30 lands in our deck, 1 in 3 cards we draw is statistically going to be a land. Our opening 7 will, on average, contain 2 lands. Statistically, we won't draw our third land until we've drawn 9 cards. That's not as bad as it sounds. Because we draw a card on our first turn, we should have drawn our third land by turn 2. That's beautiful. That means, though, that we'll draw our 10th card on our third turn and play that third land. But statistically, now we won't draw our 4th land until we've drawn 2 more cards. That means we're possibly not playing our 4th land until turn 5. And that's not cool. Even if our average mana value is 3, that means we won't be able to cast a full half of the cards in our deck on curve. Sure, we'll be able to cast everything at 1, 2, or 3 mana, but everything 4+ won't be seen until turn 5+ at best. Now, let's jump that example up to 40 lands in our deck. Now we have a 40% chance to draw a land with any card. So in our opening 7, the odds are we'll have almost always drawn 3 lands per 7, or a land every 2.5 cards. This gives us a 50-50 chance of drawing 2 or 3 lands in our opening 7, and almost ensures that we'll be hitting our 3rd land on our first draw. This means by the time we're drawing our 10th card, turn 3, we'll have drawn 4 lands. And turn 5, card 12, we'll have hit our 5th land with a 50-50 chance of drawing our 6th too. And if you have a mana curve of 3, you'll know that by turn 5, you can cast everything in your deck. 2 spells a turn, or your commander in a spell, or have your synergies going. You will ensure you can hit that critical turn's worth of mana generation. Lands equal reliability. If your deck is unreliable, it's likely because you aren't running enough lands. There are other factors we can talk about as well. Draw spells, or ramp spells, or mana rocks, but even at decent values, these may conflict with casting your commander, or put you behind curve, just getting to the ability to cast them. But that's something we'll talk about next time. I recommend keeping disciplined when it comes to lands in your commander deck. If this is a challenge for you, here's a tip. Start with your lands. Most often when building a deck, we pull together more than 100 cards, without lands, that we're considering putting in a deck. Then we cut down to make room for lands. I propose doing it backwards. Fill your lands in your deck first, even if it's just placeholders of 37 or 38 basics, and don't compromise on that number. Fill the remaining spots in your deck with cards that you want to play, and don't cut any of those lands. It'll make sure you have a more consistently enjoyable play experience. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Are you likely to cut a land when building a deck? What's the average mana curve on most of your decks look like? Do you consider yourself disciplined when it comes to lands and deck building? Thanks to Moxfield for sponsoring this channel. Be sure to check out the link to my Moxfield profile in the description below and follow me while you're there. Moxfield is the best deck building platform in the world, and it will show you your average mana values, your mana curve, and give you sample hands to try and determine whether you're going to be able to do the thing in your decks. Be sure to check out these other videos from the channel, and as always folks, good luck and have fun.